Kai rushed from mindfulness to history, which was in a different building across campus. He was determined not to be late on the first day. Kai entered Mr. Hennessy's history class with a few minutes to spare and looked around the room for an empty seat. Overflowing bookshelves lined the walls with models, artifacts, and other collections displayed on top. Kai locked eyes with a girl across the room sitting by the window as he searched for somewhere to sit. She smiled at him, and Kai nodded in her direction. He took another quick look around the room and found an empty seat right in the center. Mr. Hennessy made a dramatic entrance into the classroom, declaring, "History is important." His eyes roamed the room, and then he continued, "When you know about different gifts and their application in the past, you gain great insight into how to use your abilities. Knowing our history can stop us from making the same mistakes, help mitigate potential threats, and understand how we got to this point. Like our collective history, it is important to know your personal history, where you come from, the values passed from generation to generation, and the struggles your family had to endure for you to be here today." He pointed at a boy in the front row as he continued, "Ultimately, what makes you who you are? We are going to go down each row and have you share a snapshot of your history." Kai looked around the room. "This will be easy. I've been practicing this speech since primary school. Name, favorite subject, personal detail, no sweat. I'll start us off." Mr. Hennessy leaned back against his desk, took a breath, ran his hand over his bald head, and began. "I have been teaching here for 12 years. Each year is more interesting than the last one. I am sure you all will not disappoint. Let's think outside the box. How would you like to be remembered? What advice would you give 5-year-old you? Who influences you the most and how?" Kai was trying to prepare a response, but he could not focus. These questions were quite different than what he was expecting. All he could think about was the last time he had been this tense about introducing himself. It had been an eventful year, and it was time for the first day at their new school. Kai and Kenzo hugged their mother tight and left the house, eager to see the new school. They jumped onto their bikes and pedaled down the street. The school was not far from their new home. Kai, Kenzo, and Kane had explored the streets over the last few days, while the family settled in and learned about the new town. As Kai pedaled, his mind wandered. What will this new school be like? Will any of the teachers be wicked? I hope I can make some new friends. Suddenly, another bike rounded the corner and knocked Kai off his. He tried to brace himself by throwing up his hands. He struck the ground hard and then looked up to figure out what had happened. "Oh my God, are you okay?" A young girl with afro puffs looked down at him with wide, concerned eyes. He looked down at his sprained wrist and scrapes. "I will be fine." Immediately, the cuts and scratches started to get smaller and smaller. He wiggled his wrist, and the pain subsided. Less than a minute later, he was back on his feet, and good as new. "See? I don't bruise easily." He reached down and picked up his bike. As he looked down at his bent tire and dangling chain, Kai said, "My bike, on the other hand, will need some time to recover." "Pretty cool, right? He heals quick. Believe me. We have tested it out," Kenzo said as he giggled at the horror on her face. She turned her attention from Kenzo back to Kai. "I'm so sorry. Are you on the way to school? I can walk the rest of the way with you. I'm Ode, by the way." She cracked a hesitant smile. "Kai, and that's my brother Kenzo. We can all walk together. I will fix the bike when I get home," Kai said. They began walking down the street, and they could see the school in the distance. It would not take long for them to get there. "If you heal so fast, how did you get that?" Ode asked as she pointed at the scar in Kai's left eyebrow. Kai touched the spot. "Oh, this! I fell when I was little, before I got my gift." "Ah. Cool," Ode said. Ode clued them into a few tips about the school and what to expect as they walked. They soon entered through Oakwell Primary School's front door and went their separate ways to their respective homerooms. Kai looked around the room at all the strange faces. It was the middle of the school year, and he knew it was time for the awkward introduction. The two giggling girls in the back caught his attention while the teacher stood at the front of the class and said, "Good morning, class. Help me in welcoming Kai to Oakwell Primary School." The class simultaneously said, "Hi, Kai." With a tenuous wave, Kai replied, "Hi. Kai, please tell us a little about yourself. Let's start with where you are from. Do you have any siblings? What is your favorite subject? Then, anything additional you wish to share." Kai's face got hot as he tried to find the words and started tapping his foot. "We just moved here from Illa for my mother's job. I have 2 little brothers. My favorite subject is science." "Well, it is nice to meet you, Kai. You can sit right here, and we will get started." He took his seat and breathed a sigh of relief, feeling the butterflies in his stomach settle. He had to be careful not to reveal the existence of his baby brother. He could heal his body, but he could not turn back time if he were to make a mistake. Kanai had been born 2 days prior, and Kai needed to protect his family. The hair-raising screech of the chair moving in front of Kai captured his attention. A petite golden-haired boy stood up. He looked small for his age, but his bass voice starkly contrasted with his stature. Kai panicked, trying to come up with something to say. Fortunately, it did not take him much longer to come up with something straightforward, but not too revealing. Kai half-listened while the boy finished speaking and retook his seat. Kai stood and took a deep breath. "My name is Kai Renn. I want to be remembered for protecting those who can't defend themselves. I would tell 5-year-old me to enjoy being carefree. My mother is the greatest influence in my life because she is resilient and strong, raising my brothers and me all alone after my father died." Mr. Hennessy's eyes widened. "I'm sorry to hear that. How many brothers do you have?" "It was a long time ago, but thanks." Kai took a deep breath before continuing. "I have 2 brothers." One side of Mr. Hennessy's mouth twitched into a crooked smile, then faded just as fast before he replied, "Nice to meet you, Kai." Then Kai took a seat. "Who's next?" After a few more students introduced themselves, the girl with the curly chocolate afro and crimson-rimmed glasses stood up. "My name is Seven. I want to be remembered for making the world more colorful. I would tell 5-year-old me, never let anyone dull your light. My brother is my biggest influence. He is an outgoing person who took his own path against my parents' wishes. I hope I can be more like him one day." After 2 more introductions and a 30-minute conversation about the course expectations, Kai rose from his seat to head out of the classroom. He was almost out the door when Mr. Hennessy called his name. "Kai, next class, we will look at some real heroes that might interest you. Have a good day." Kai looked over his shoulder back at Mr. Hennessy and gave a weak smile. "See ya. Mr. Hennessy seems like a nice teacher. This class should not be too bad." The day was going well so far. Kai had some time before his next class, so he headed to his dorm room before lunch. He put the key in the door, but before he could turn it, the door swung open. "Oh, hey!" A familiar person with a basket full of snacks and bags hanging from her wrist was looking back at him. "Hello, Seven, right?" Kai asked. "Were you trying to break into my room?" She looked at him, perplexed. Kai was confused himself. He looked up at the door, and it read 326. He looked down at the label on his key that read 329. "Of course, I needed some brownies." They both laughed. "Actually, it looks like I'm supposed to be in the other hall, 329. These halls all look the same to me. Need any help with that?" "Sure. My mother bought some community snacks for the dorm. I was taking them to the commons," Seven replied. "Perfect. You can take me on a tour, because I have no idea where that is," Kai said. He took a majority of the bags from Seven and backed up to let her out the door so she could lead the way. As they walked to the commons, she started talking. "So, is this your first act of heroism?" She looked at him with a sly smile. "Don't think that I will tell you all of my secrets just because you have snacks." Their laughter and banter filled the empty halls. As they turned the corner, 3 guys were coming toward them. As Kai walked by them, he felt a jolt on his left side. One of the guys had intentionally bumped right into him. Kai turned his head and glared at him. "Excuse you!" The tall, muscle-bound guy whipped around and took a few steps to close the distance between them. "What did you say?" The boy with a buzz cut stood a few inches taller than Kai. Kai looked him in the eyes and repeated, "I said, excuse you." His eyes narrowed. He would not let this guy intimidate him, especially in front of Seven. No way.